Hey, LarkenRose here. I want to start out by saying that there will be a screening of the Jones Plantation in the Philadelphia area. It's actually suburbs west of Philly. It's like 40 minutes away from the city, because heck with the city. And I will be there. This will be on December 16th. I believe showtime is 6:30 p.m. But below I will give a link with the details and how to get tickets. I believe it's a theater that only seats 100, so it's probably going to sell out pretty quickly. So if you want to attend, I will be there. And we'll be doing a Q&A afterwards and hanging out with whoever. I don't know what all is going to happen, but I will be there and we will have that screening, and that'll be fabulous. Second, the official premiere of Jones Plantation. It's a little bit weird because it's happened before. I don't know what makes it officially the premiere, except we say it is happening in LA because, of course, that's where you do a premiere of a movie. On January 20th. I don't yet have the details of exactly when and where to buy tickets yet. But January 20th in LA will be the official hoity-toity big official premiere of it. So as soon as I have information about where to get tickets on that, I will be sharing them all over the place. But for now, mark your calendar, January 20th for the LA premiere of Jones Plantation, and December 16th for the Philly screening of it, which I will be at. Now, I wanted to do something that is actually depicted in the movie. I wanted to do a video about something. I don't want to do something depicted in the movie. That would be horrible, almost automatically. I wanted to do a video about something depicted in the movie, which is when the propagandists for authoritarianism mix truth with BS, and most people don't have the awareness or the thinking skills to go, well, this is true, but that isn't true, and the resulting authoritarianism that you advocate is stupid and evil. And so, in the movie, I won't give away the actual scene, but in the movie, Mr. Smith is talking about how we have to have law and order, or we're nothing better than savages. Chaos and mayhem. And law and order, just the phrase, is a fine example of what I'm talking about, because it's the dictates of a ruling class, law, and an orderly society. Those don't go together. Those aren't the same thing, but people think of it as one thing, so that if you're not in favor of law and order, you must be for chaos and mayhem. And a real-life example of that is a bunch of people pointing at Oregon and other places where you defunded the police and see what happened. Now there's crime everywhere and there's druggies all over the place. It's like you skipped a whole bunch of steps, like disarming the victims of potential crooks, arresting people for defending themselves. It's not just, oh, well, we didn't have an authoritarian ruling class, so everybody's attacking and killing each other. No, that's not how that happens. Getting people in trouble and telling them you're not allowed to defend your own private property. You're not allowed to tell people, hey, violent, unstable druggie, get the hell off my property or I'll make you get off. Now you're the one in trouble with government. They will send thugs after you. So when they play these games where you're supposed to think police equals order, most people can't think beyond that to go, no, they don't. And the fact that you got defunded over here and your city is now a pile of crap doesn't mean that, well, that's obviously why we need authoritarian parasites beating the crap out of people at random and protecting us. No, it isn't. But so many people can only comprehend two options. Either we have a huge, powerful police force or we don't. Well, if we don't right now and bad things are happening, then we must have to try the other one. By the way, this is the foundation of American politics, is you're going to put up with one flavor of just ridiculous, incompetent, destructive authoritarianism for a couple years. And when there's a whole lot of problems, then we're going to say, well, you're allowed to vote for the other flavor of ridiculous authoritarian incompetence and malice and everything else. And people do that. Like they jump back and forth between now the Republicans are in power, now the Democrats are in power, now the Republicans in power. The game of that, incidentally, the novel, The Jones Plantation, gets into that game of switching it back and forth. It has to change often enough that people think their votes matter. The statistical likelihood that that's actually like a natural phenomenon is absolutely zero. If 51% of the country supported a certain viewpoint and philosophy and you had a party that was consistent to that viewpoint and philosophy, they would win every single time. People would stop caring about the vote because they know they're going to win. 51% of the people support them. They have to intentionally sabotage it and do dumb things and then hype this guy to make it go back and forth. How many people have ever thought about that? What are the statistical chances that a giant population is going to choose them, and then them, and then them, and then them, and then none. There's zero chance that in a natural setting, given the choice between general worldviews, whether they're dumb worldviews or not, that that's going to happen. They have to make it happen. They have to make it go back and forth so that you imagine that your vote means something. So they have their two puppets taking turns, being in front of you, being idiot puppets, while the puppet masters are robbing you and controlling you the whole time by way of their puppets. But the likelihood of that going back and forth, like I said, if 51% was there, well, they're set for life. If that's what people actually wanted, if that's what people actually believed in. So they have to do things to sabotage it to make sure it keeps going back and forth. Look at that, whether it's just the presidency or, pick any congressional office or Congress as a whole, and it goes back and forth. Why? It's the same stinking people in the country. Why are they changing their mind? And there's even a name for them, swing voters. So there's the people, I will always vote for this party no matter how bad it abuses me. Well, I will always vote for this party no matter how bad it abuses me. We're the learned, enlightened ones. We go back and forth voting for different parties to abuse us. And we think we're super open-minded and superior. Do you ever vote for somebody outside of that? No. Do you ever question the process of voting? No. The fact that you will vote for one of two corrupt crooks who's going to abuse you instead of just one, that's not better. And, when I point out that all the worst tyrannies were democratically elected constitutional republics, like the Nazis were elected into power, Stalin was elected into power, Mao was elected into power, well, that doesn't count because they only had one choice. So if you had Stalin and, let's say, his cousin, would that be hunky-dory? Now we have democracy, now we have freedom. Which, by the way, is why Mr. Jones and Mr. Johnson are cousins in the Jones Plantation, to show how ridiculous it is. Why is that an improvement? Now you have two choices among the hundreds of thousands of people in the U.S., or billions in the world. You have two crappy, oppressive choices. And the people who are like, well, I'm open-minded. I don't make up my mind ahead of time which crook I'm going to vote for. Okay, that's just barely better, if at all, than the ones who are like, I'm always voting Democrat. I'm always voting Republican. You're all voting to be abused, but because you can't think beyond two choices, and you have no nuance to your thought, and there's no principle underlying it, you keep empowering evil. The whole concept of the lesser of two evils. Who said it has to be those two? Oh, the system said it had to be those two. A big authoritarian system came to you and said, we're going to dominate you, we're going to boss you around, we're going to hurt you if you disobey, we're going to make you pay tribute to us, and it's going to be a lot, we're going to rob you year after year, but we're going to let you choose which puppet you want in front of this puppet show for the next 2-4 years, whatever, depending on which office it is. And people fall for that instead of saying, wait a minute, why did they get to decide, first of all, that there are two choices and what the two choices are going to be? But it isn't just political, it's philosophical. So if they say, well, you defunded the police and now there's violence and drug addiction everywhere, blah, blah, blah. So you have to go back to the choice of we need a big authoritarian group of parasites bossing us around and robbing us on a regular basis. Is that your ability to like think things through? That's your comprehension of the solution. Is there can only be two. So if this one didn't work, we better do the other one. How about defund and disarm the parasitic thugs who go around acting as road pirates 99% of the time, and have a voluntary organized means of defense against actual aggressors? After the badge-wearing aggressors are out of business, then have people acting like grown-ups who organize to defend themselves. And by the way, I'll mention again, Threat Management Center up in Detroit, Dale Brown, just a stellar, amazing example of a non-authoritarian form of defense and protection. But they're not the only ones. Like, tons of people can do that. It's just most people don't even think in that direction. They just think in terms of, authority, be there to save me. Authority's kind of beating me up. Authority, go away. Help, who will save me? It's like, that's the extent of your ability to contemplate reality and how society should be. So when people point to the cities like, well, you defunded your police. Good. Good first step. Don't stop there, but good first step. Get rid of the badge-wearing parasites who 99% of the time what they're doing is robbing people. Maybe even take some of the people who meant well, who had that job, and say, your job is very different now. No longer is it your job to forcibly impose the arbitrary whims of a bunch of political parasites onto everybody. Now your job is to actually protect people. And by the way, whether you get paid or not depends on whether you do a good job. Because you're not going to get it by way of taxes anymore. You have to actually please your customers by protecting them and serving them in a way that they want to keep paying you for your services. And the fact that even that is beyond the thought patterns that most people will have as far as protection and security. All they can think is Republicans, we need big, strong, authoritarian police, and Democrats, defund the police. Okay, so far so good. And then hide in a corner because you just disarmed all the disarmed all the victims, and then told them you're not allowed to defend yourself. California being a shining example of that, where they'll literally arrest some, like there's a number of cases where the person who actually uses force in self-defense, especially if you use a gun, to stop a bad guy, you're the one who's going to get in trouble. They won't send police after the actual robber or attacker, but they'll send them after you if you use a firearm to morally, righteously, legitimately defend the innocent from aggressors. Then you're the bad guy. And so the ability to fake people out by just mixing together BS and a little bit of truth, like, we want people protected from these nasty psychos. Therefore police. No, not therefore police. But if people can only see, well, either you don't want anybody stopping the bad guys, or you want an authoritarian police force locking people up for having the wrong plan. Why are those the two choices? Because the establishment ruling class told you those are the two choices, Democrat and Republican. And all of the Republicans and all of the Democrats fell for that ridiculously stupid game because they can't think beyond that. They can't think beyond the two options that were spoon-fed to them by a bunch of political parasites. And in both cases, if I'm trying to be nice, I can find good intentions. Okay, the Republicans want innocent people protected. Is that what the police do? No, but they're going to close their eyes to that as much as they have to keep clinging to their side of the authoritarian coin instead of admitting, yeah, we want the innocent protected, and the police do a horrendous job of that. They just suck at it. They're mostly road pirates, and then they're sadistic idiots, and then they show up a half hour late and shoot your dog. Like, in how many cases are the cops actually showing up in time to stop a bad guy from hurting innocent people? Once in a blue frickin' moon, if that. And then you have the other side, which is the Democrats, which the ultimate schizophrenia is that they believe in 8 million laws and requirements and legislation all over the place, and then whine about the police existing. Like, how do you think these things are enforced? And then they don't notice that they're still being enforced because the enforcers didn't go away. They just stopped doing the only thing that had a shred of legitimacy to it, which is going after actual criminals like trespassers and vandals and attackers and murderers and rapists and so on and so forth. And so they don't want the state to go away. Democrats are not at all voluntarists. They don't at all believe in actual freedom where government doesn't have its tentacles in anything. They just object to the short-term manifestation of authoritarianism of, hey, that guy with the badge beat up that guy. Yeah, duh, that's statism. You support it. Well, make that guy not get paid to do that. Okay? I mean, it's good that you figure that much out. But you didn't figure out, take away the giant thing that creates that in the first place. In fact, you vote for that every chance you get. We need free housing and free this, and how's that going to happen? By tax money stolen from people. And yeah, I know it's actually more intricate than that because they control at the federal level, because they control the issuing of the currency, sort of, by way of the Fed, which is sort of pseudo-private. It's a weird mess. The point is they don't really need taxes for revenue. It's more to counteract the inflation that would happen if they didn't do that after they make the state level. They can't do that. They can't fabricate currency. So it is more like, well, we rob you and then tell you it's to protect you. But so many people don't think in terms of principles, and they don't start from the beginning of like, okay, we have a bunch of people here. Some of them are being nasty and some innocent people are being harmed. What should we do about it? Because government and the indoctrination camps that passes schools say, well, government does that. Government handles that. So you don't have to think about it. You don't have to think in principles. Either you support authoritarian police or you don't. And you still do, even though you say you don't, because you still want government tentacles in absolutely everything. So it's kind of pathetic that it's that easy for the parasites to mix good intentions with a crappy authoritarian solution, and both sides fall for it. Republicans fall for it, Democrats fall for it, for different flavors of authoritarian ruling class robbing and controlling everybody. And they both condemn the other one for, you just don't care about whatever it is. You know, the Republicans are like, you don't care about protecting the innocent, which is why you defunded the police. You don't care about protecting the innocent either if you're a Republican. You just stinking don't. Because you support literally the biggest thief in the world. Police, literally, not even including tax collection, which makes it way worse. Police steal more property than all other thieves combined in this country. If you don't believe me, look it up. Police are the biggest robbers in the country. And they might call it civil asset forfeiture, like you weren't accused or convicted or charged with anything. But we decided this was probably in connection, so we're just going to steal your car, steal a whole bunch of cash, or steal whatever. Police are the biggest thief around. If you support the police, you're not anti-crime. You just want the criminals to have badges. That's not an improvement. And for the Democrats who oppose police abuse, good on that narrow little thing, but you still support authoritarian garbage controlling and robbing everybody all over the place for all sorts of socialist idiocy. Neither of you want freedom, and when you're criticizing the other one for the evil crap they condone, you're both right. When you pretend to be principled for the stuff you want, neither of you is right because you're both trying to get it by way of authoritarianism. And it's just kind of pathetic that it's that easy to trick people and make them cheer for authoritarianism by saying, well, if you care about this good thing, then you have to support this authoritarian evil thing. And both sides totally do that. If you care about the poor, then you're going to support this massive government welfare state that robs a gazillion people and then buys the loyalty of millions of other people and makes them helpless and hopeless and destroys their spirits and their families and everything else. Really, that's the measure of whether I care about poor people, is whether I support your socialist stupidity. Yeah, you don't really care. And then the Republicans, if you care about protecting the innocent, then you'll gladly fund this giant war machine that creates enemies all over the world and murders children on the other side of the world on a regular basis, and the local version, which is a bunch of badge-wearing parasitic thugs that commit literally more theft than all other thieves in the country combined. Literally, you can look it up. And so both of them don't get, and the funniest thing, or the saddest thing, is when I object to their flavor of authoritarianism, both sides, without fail, will accuse me of being the other side because they can't comprehend anything else. Their thinking is so binary that if you're not a Democrat, you must be a horrible, evil Republican. Or if you're not a Republican, you must be one of those libtard commies. And what I have to keep telling them is, you two have way more in common with each other than I have with either of you, because I actually advocate actual freedom, which means the absence of a ruling class. Both of you are just bickering over which boot to have on your throat. You have almost everything in common. You nitpick a little bit about how the stolen loot should be spent, but you both want me and yourself and everybody else forcibly robbed by a giant authoritarian ruling class. So no, I'm not a Republican when I make fun of the Democrats, and I'm not a Democrat when I make fun of the Republicans. I'm somebody who believes in freedom, which Republicans can't comprehend, and Democrats can't comprehend, because they fall for this ridiculous notion that, well, here are your two choices. They'll both have a boot on your neck, but those are your choices. That's all there is in the whole world. Don't think outside of that. Don't have anything like principled logic behind your belief system where you go, okay, I want innocent protected, I want poor people taken care of, I don't want people violently dominated or robbed. Is there some solution that could be like voluntary, like a bunch of grown-ups cooperating and organizing without committing violent aggression against all their neighbors? Yeah, there are lots of solutions that fit in that category, and 0 Republicans and 0 Democrats are capable of thinking of them, because they've been told your options are A, which is shit, or B, which is crap. So choose your shit or your crap, and then that's all you can do. And anybody who isn't choosing shit or crap, anyone who isn't choosing shit, assume they want crap. And anyone who isn't choosing crap, assume they want shit. And if somebody comes along and says, I don't want shit or crap, well, they're just some fringe extremists. They're not even worth listening to. So that's what actual advocates of freedom are up against. And the Jones Plantation depicts how that usually goes for those people too. But I won't spoil it by saying any more than that. So, yeehaw. Anyway, December 16th screening of the Jones Plantation in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia area. It's actually Oaks, Pennsylvania. I shall be there. We'll have a fun little chat back and forth afterwards. I'm sure there'll be a hangout after that somewhere in the area. And I forget the details of that, but be there. I will put the info below for actually getting tickets to that. And then the premiere in LA will be January 20th. Tickets aren't for sale yet. They will be very soon, and I will give the details, but mark your calendar. January 20th will be the LA premiere of Jones Plantation. Yeehaw. Now go out there and advocate actual freedom.